My name is Nicole Hansen, and today's presentation is about relevancy in the classroom. My first topic of teaching relevancy in the classroom is social justice through literature and writing. My stance on this position is that it is one of the very best ways for students to learn about the past and present history of social justice issues. In my classroom, I plan on using this to teach students to be more open discussing uncomfortable topics. In most classroom settings, teaching race, gender, and political issues is frowned upon because it makes students uncomfortable and also some teachers uncomfortable. But through the use of literature and writing, it bridges that gap of uncomfortableness and allows for a more open forum of discussing. It also helps students get a better understanding of one another. Sometimes social justice issues don't pertain to everyone in the same way, so using this platform is a great way of getting students to understand more of what each other are going through. One of the great references that I found talks a great deal about how teaching social justice through writing and literature is a great starting point for critical conversations that drive curricular changes. If we're not having these conversations with our students and they're not getting them from home, then there's no way that they're going to understand these types of social issues. Students are often afraid to respond for fear of offending the one student of color who may be in the classroom or, more importantly, saying something that will insult the instructor. This is a direct quote from the article, and it is a great point that is brought up for the fact that a lot of times it's just very uncomfortable for students to talk about these kind of things, which is why you, as an educator, really need to focus on having a comfortable environment for all students to learn and flourish, so we are able to discuss these uncomfortable topics so they're no longer uncomfortable, they're just topics. A second article that I found, which is by Karen Gibson and Margaret W. Parks, says social justice and education are both, in profound ways, about the placement of value, which is a challenge in any post-colonial state. This is very true, because if we as the educators do not see social justice as an issue or valuable, then we're not going to teach it in our classrooms. But then, again, like I said in the last article, students will not be able to get these different ideas because they're also not getting them from home, most likely. Another important point that comes from this article is it important to offer students and young academics strategies against the alienation, apathy, and chaos to make them aware that they can and should change the world, or at least try to make a difference. I really enjoyed this point because we should be giving students the tools and the knowledge to know that they can change the world, and what they're going through, they're not alone, and what they're seeing, they can change. The next topic is adolescent literature. I find this topic goes really well with the social justice topic because they really are just hand in hand. Adolescent literature talking about social justice, it just makes sense. My stance on this is adolescent literature is a great tool for the English classroom and connecting with students. Again, it will be utilized because it connects students by letting them see each other's issues and a good bridge for talking about these difficult topics, and is relevant to the lives of students because students are able to see themselves and their own life problems in these books. I really liked this article because it talks about how adolescent literature can help teach social responsibility by using plot-based ethical dilemmas to discuss culture and prejudice. Again, using adolescent literature, which is typically an easier read for students, so it's easy for them to understand, they grasp these what are usually hard concepts, and it's easy for them to talk about with their peers and us as educators. This next article by Nancy B. and Roberta really dives into the specifics of an adolescent literature topic with teaching genocide. I really like this article because it states how sometimes teachers find sensitive topics too difficult and emotional, or they lack the know-how in citing gaps in their professional development. So we as teachers really need to be open to teaching these difficult topics, and with the use of adolescent literature, again, going back to the social justice unit as well, they really just make sense with each other because adolescent literature, it keeps kids engaged, easy to read, it's what they want to read, And if they're reading what they want and also getting these valuable lessons, then it just makes sense to teach both of them in the classroom. The third topic that I believe is important in teaching relevancy in the classroom is media and non-print text in the ELA classroom. I believe that these are both great tools for keeping students engaged in the classwork, and it also ups the participation rate. How it will be used in my classroom is techniques will be familiar to students. Students now are growing up with technology, so it just makes sense to use it more in their daily school lives. E-books instead of hard copies. This will first of all save on paper, and also does not give students the excuse of saying that they lost their hard copy, because it's right on their e-book and Chromebooks. My first source was a very interesting read because it dealt with using e-books in the classroom specifically. And it states that with the rise of mobile technology, e-books and interactive e-books were created to deliver instruction and motivate the students to be responsible in their own learning in an attractive way. Students now are very technology hungry, so giving them what they want in this instance is only going to help them be more apt to learn in the way that they find attractive. So give them an ebook, use it on their Chromebooks if that's the school district that you're using has them. It's a win-win situation. You know they're doing the work because they enjoy what they're doing, most likely, with the technology aspect. This next source was one of my favorites because it has to do with Twitter, which is a very popular social media platform. Teachers gave students the option of using Twitter because a lot of big business people use it, so it's a platform that a lot of people are going to be able to see what these students are doing, and it makes students feel good about themselves that more people than their classmates and their teachers are seeing their type of work. Twitter is a platform that is known for keeping up to date with news stories, events in the real time. It's an interactive tool that also enhances collaboration. So it's just a great way of getting students involved with the internet and having people on the internet involved with the students and what they're learning. The final point that I have to talk about is digital literacy. Digital literacy is happening in the classroom whether it is liked or not, and it is a great tool for students to read, write, and research with. In my classroom, I plan on using it with students using technology daily. It's a great, reliable source for them to use, and it's platforms that students are familiar with. Digital literacy goes very, very well with the other topic of using social media in the classroom because giving digital literacy to students is helping them become better technological learners, which is where we're going with today's day and age. My first source was very helpful because it was pros and cons of using digital literacy in the classroom. The pros involve students are more apt to want to participate, knowing that other students can't really judge them because it's basically student-to-teacher basis unless it's in a public platform. And it's also very convenient for students to learn this way. A lot of the cons were some school districts may not have all of the technological advances that others have, so digital literacy may not be appropriate just because it's not as needed in that classroom where there's no computers. The final source I used had to do with using the digital literacy practices in an inclusive classroom. This is very interesting because they found that incorporating digital tools into the classroom can provide students with authentic audiences with whom to share their learning across a variety of modes. So again, students are able to see that their work does matter to more than just their classmates and teachers, that people in the actual world are seeing what they're doing. My final thoughts are that all four concepts intertwine to make a student-centered learning classroom, keep students involved, and makes this experience memorable for being in the classroom. In today's day and age, it is impossible to teach without using technology. It's everywhere. We're giving students the tools to be the best learners that they can be. These techniques make learning relevant to students' lives. Again, they're growing up with technology. It's something they want to use. Depriving them from using it is just not being a smart educator. Thank you for listening.